Welcome to the Feudal Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we're going to be talking about the Magnificent Kotobuki.
Nothing magnificent about him.
Yeah, no, there was nothing magnificent about this as a whole, I feel. This was my choice for this week. And I got to say, I am another very horrible choice for 2 weeks running for me. So we're going to see if I can keep that trend going along. The Magnificent Kotobuki is about a group of mercenary women who apparently are insanely good at flying planes and dogfighting. And it takes place on a world where you're led to believe, at least in the very beginning, that there is no water anywhere at all on this planet.
Yeah, it's frustrating to say the very least. It is, you're supposedly on either post-apocalyptic or another world, or I don't know, like somewhere where the water is extraordinarily scarce, but for some reason booze flows like water should.
There's enough booze there to make me happy and to make sure I'm drunkenly happy all the time.
Yeah. 90% of the show, at least, well, no, I'll be nice. 70% of the show is held in a bar where the main character is eating pancakes or everyone's getting sloshed.
I'll have to say, one of the things I gotta say on this is 50% of it takes place in the bar. Okay, so I'm gonna go even nicer than you, but there is no rhyme or reason to any of the story, and they throw characters at you right at the very beginning that they don't lead you into being that you should know, or they act like this character is going to be super important, and then it turns out they're not important because they're only there for maybe half an episode. Now, the total length of this show, it's 12 episodes long. It is really new. So it came out January 2019, or at least new at the time of this recording. It came out January 2019, and it ran all the way through the end of March of 2019. So for the winter year of 2019. And it's as if the animators could not decide on how they wanted the animation to be. It was very choppy. It was very robotic. And the movements in which they were moving, it was ridiculous all the way through. And you would see them in one particular animation style, and then the next moment it would switch. And then they would decide to show two different animation styles side by side, for an entire scene, which drove me up a wall. It's as if they couldn't decide on what they wanted to do, or they had two different animators working on this, and they were fighting with each other on how they wanted the animation to be done.
Well, see, what I think they were trying to do was basically piggyback off the success Rooster Teeth had with that style of anime when they were producing a really amazing, groundbreaking, if you will, anime called Ruby. And it was kind of funny because you could actually see in the progression of that particular anime how much money people had available to them, because in the beginning anybody not important was just a shadow figure, but they used almost pure computer graphics with minor amounts of drawing, as you saw in this show, which I will refer to henceforth as that Magnificent, because Magnificent Kotobuki, I'm going to mess it up. Kotobuki. Yeah, that's going to be forgotten just after I said it. So the Magnificent.
The magnificent turd that it was.
The Magnificent Tryhard.
This is as weird and as obtuse as the animation was. The story was just as confusing and annoying all the way through.
See, I think it could have been better if it had a more experienced team. I say that because it felt like someone's third attempt. Not the first, because the first wouldn't have made the cutting room floor. Not the second, because they weren't known then. And the third meaning this is their like first decent breakout to show someone something. And looking online, it's got really decent reviews. I don't know why.
I would have to echo that. I don't understand why this had great reviews. So, the whole premise around this, it seems like a great idea. It's a show where you're in this world and you fly planes, and instead of you having aircraft carriers that are floating in the water, you're in blimps that are aircraft carriers, which is a great idea. I love that idea. It is wonderful. Instead of them having newer technology, though, for the planes, at least for the majority of it, 99% of it, you have single propeller planes, which is fine. And that's how they do their dogfights. That's how they do their fighting and everything like that. They don't have missiles. They don't have rockets or anything like that, at least for almost all of it, all the way up to a certain point.
Yeah.
Right.
And then point where it would make no sense why they even had this kind of firepower.
Yeah.
And didn't use it before. You could end a fight almost instantly.
Yes. And that's how it was. I mean, like you get to a certain episode, like 3/4 of the way through, and they literally drop rockets and are bombing this one specific area, and you are wondering, why didn't they bust anything like this out before? Why haven't they used any of this technology before?
Rocket boosters, flares, grenade-style missiles that explode, like proximity grenades. They explode a certain amount before they reach their target, only to throw shrapnel everywhere. I mean, they could have used that so many different times before. For instance, when they were like 40-1 disadvantaged, that would have been a great thing to have.
Exactly. Not only that, another thing that really kind of boggles my mind is at the end, it's like you're wondering, it's like, well, if they have this entire world centered around flying, why don't they have jets? Why don't they have like jets that we understand it to this day? And they only have something similar to that at the end, where the enemy that they're fighting has 2 fighter jets that we would know them, and they are just dominating. But somehow the single propeller planes are able to take them out easily.
Yeah, they're able to outmaneuver because lighter and more maneuverability means easier turning, quicker turning, and of course, maneuverability beats power any day of the week.
Well, I mean, like, never mind the fact that the enemy was shooting out rockets that supposedly had proximity and locking that kept blowing up, and all they had to do was just turn their planes to the side and fly along the wall. Never mind the fact that several times the plane's wings would clip a wall or something like that throughout the whole series, and nothing would happen to the plane. Like,
explain.
At all.
Okay. All right. So, a short overview. You have a series. You have a bunch. You have these. What, 5? Would it be 5 young women?
I would say it 5 young women, and plus one child that looks to be about 10 years old and is flying a plane, killing people.
Okay, so that's the main character, right?
No. The main character isn't that. They have someone else that's even younger than her, or looks to be even younger than her.
Mechanic?
No, not the mechanic. It's someone else. This guy,
Fish
like,
girl?
No, it's the.
They all look young to me.
They all look really young. The one I'm talking about is Chica.
Oh, really? You think she's about 10?
Looks the youngest out of all of them. Not only that, she's the shortest one out of all of them.
Okay, I can see that. My age group, I was going to say between 15 and 23.
Well,
like that was that was my best guess.
I could go with that.
One of them seems obsessed with numbers. The other one seems obsessed with keeping law and order, even though they're not anywhere near orderly. You have a mistress that seems to be a master negotiator. They have a male captain of the Zeppelin, let's call it.
if I may, the actual captain isn't him. He's the co-captain or first officer or whatever. The actual captain, and everyone refers to him as the actual captain, is a dodo bird.
Okay, fair. Fair. So the dodo bird doesn't do shit. Except like appear and disappear at very specific and odd times. As a letter carrier, as a bomb diffuser for some reason. That's really all the bird does. Oh, and when you come back late, he'll fly off and try to rescue you after he already sees you flying back in.
Yeah.
So there's that. But anyway, so you have these rather young women in a male-dominated field, because I think they're the only women other than that snake lady, which you find out later, who actually fly and do well. And actually, they outperform everyone. They would be the Mary Sue of aviation dogfights, if you will, because everyone else gets one bullet to the wing and they fall, unless they're specifically like heavily armored. And these girls get like shot at, and I think only one or two ever actually get shot out of the sky. But it takes a lot to get them out of the sky. And they're all flying airplanes which are universally known to be inferior. And this is pointed out several times throughout the anime that, oh, you're flying that? No one in their right mind would fly that. It's lighter. It's weaker. It doesn't fly as fast. And it's very uniquely politically interesting because the mayor, who's obviously elected by the people of their main city, can't make a decision. You have this woman come in who's a counselor, for lack of a better term, is just an awful human being who turns out to be an angel later on, who pulls the strings from like the shadows. And you have this magician who somehow is head of parliament when we're done with the anime.
He's the head of his own area in and of itself. So we're going to go with he's a rival ruler in a neighboring country.
Dictator. He ends up being a dictator. But I didn't gather that they were from rivaling countries. I just thought that they were like, safe havens that they were able to land and fuel and stuff like that. I felt like they used all the same currency. They used all the same language. So I just thought they were like, cities, few and far between.
I gathered that they were from different countries because that's what they were talking about. They had 3 specific countries with like different fueling points in between each area all the way through it. Now, as for a story or a rhyme and reason as to what's going on in between the countries, what happened in the past to the countries, or why there's no water or anything else, none of that's explained. They reference towards the end something about warp holes or something like that, but they never explain what they are. They make a couple references to a lost society or a specific group of individuals that came to that world. Never went into details about them. You just kind of learn through watching it that they left behind some stuff and some ideology or technology or something like that, and everyone kind of took it and ran with it and adapted it. They don't explain what the purpose of the holes are or why those individuals even showed up or how they showed up or what's special about these whole things. Nor do they explain why the nation where the magician ruler is, and because I say magician ruler because he is a magician ruler, he is a magician, why his area is the only one with water, with ocean. And they also don't go into detail about why the areas are in the state that they're in. Because you have a couple areas where it's basically one dude in an entire town by himself. And then you have like an entire area where there's more than enough people there, but no one is willing to fight.
Well, the one dude in the middle of nowhere was, if memory serves, he was part of a fueling station, a fueling city, if you will, that kind of dried up because the oil reserves started to dry up too. And once the oil dries up, you can't make gasoline anymore. And once you can't make gasoline, your currency is no good here, basically. And that's another thing. Everyone seems to have an unlimited supply of fuel somewhere. I mean, it's frustrating. The plot holes and the blaring discrepancies.
All the way throughout this series, it is plot hole after plot hole after plot hole after plot hole. With,
what I will say is what's kind of cool is that I didn't see any homeless.
Probably because they're all dead.
I didn't see any poverty either. No one seemed to go hungry. The healthcare system seemed to work.
Well, assuming everyone had healthcare. I mean, like half the time we spent it in a bar. So,
yeah,
I mean, you can only assume everything worked. I will give them this: the pirates have some. The pilots in general have some mad skills to be able to land on a flying blimp.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. That was the legit.
So in general, it doesn't matter. You have to have skills to be able to land in a blimp, and it's not that you have a lot of room for it. You have this small area you have to land in. Now, what I don't understand is why the magician ruler, when he was flying his plane, why he was literally able to do a stall in midair flat, basically making himself a larger target just to shoot up. I don't understand it. I don't understand that. I'm not a pilot. I don't know if that is even feasible, nor do I understand if that is even smart to do when you're in a fight. To do a stall in midair so you're flat in a larger surface just to go straight up. I mean, if any of you are pilots, fighter pilots, know a pilot, interacted with a pilot, ask them that question. Let us know, please. I would love to know the answer to this. I really would.
The only guess I would have for that specific thing would be that they just had to slow down real fast. I mean, that's sure. I can't even guarantee that's a good way to do it because I don't think the stress on the plane would be able to handle it, considering how flimsy it is. But
yeah,
I don't know. It makes very little sense. And the plot armor isn't even thick enough to cover the plane, so
there is no plot armor. The plot armor would have been great if it was there, but they make references and talk about things that they act like you should know this stuff, like they're talking about, like right away in the second episode. One of the main characters ends up getting upset. Kyrie. She gets upset at someone with a particular logo on her wings, and she just loses her mind and goes mad, goes after the individual that you don't know anything about. You just know that she's upset at her for whatever reason because she saw this specific logo on the wing, and that's it. And this is a repeating theme all the way throughout. Someone gets mad at someone or someone does something in particular, and they're upset about it, and they don't give you a reason why, nor do they give you a background as to why that is. They just assume you know what's going on.
What I will say is they set a few things up that look awesome. For instance, that lady with the snake on her plane. You set that up. Oh, this is going to be a main villain. Okay, cool. There's some animosity there. Next episode, we'll find out why. No, we don't. Or the episode after that, or the episode after that. You finally, at the last episode, damn near? It was second to last episode. They both run out of gas and have to talk to each other. Like, what the hell? That's not a resolution. You're teasing some awesome confrontation that never showed. I mean,
yeah.
That's a build-up for just kidding. We're running out of time. We need to wrap this up. This is the fastest way to do it. Only to find out that the main character's motivation for flying is the fact that an old man who lived in the outskirts of town showed her what it was like to fly and how free it was. And so she's like, I love doing that. And you assume that this snake person shot down that old man in a dogfight. Well, no. Turns out that this dogfight, or that this snake lady, if you will, the snake airplane lady, is just another student of this old man. So you still have no closure. And then you find out later that the old man was shot down by the magician. And you're like, what? That's so anticlimactic. You're just making a guy who's already a bad guy just that much worse.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary.
It was completely unnecessary. And it is the common theme all the way throughout. You're given all this, build up. It's like, well, it's going to be something great, or hopefully it'll be something great. And then you're just let down constantly throughout.
Well, the only payoff, if you can even call it a payoff, that I can find is you find out that the bartender is actually a badass, which came out of nowhere because he's so timid. And you'll find that there are very strong characteristics between main female characters and main male characters than there are to sub female characters and sub male characters. So the main characters would be the 5 women, and for some reason 2 mercenaries who can't die. And then the sub male characters are, one's a bartender who just happens to be a crack shot who used to be known as the Untouchable, and a purple-haired waitress who, for some reason, has perfect accuracy.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna go with. Majority of the male characters are very whiny, very snivelly, very timid, very, very annoying, with the exception of the one main male protagonist that is the villain, which he in and of itself is annoying. And then his whole action, his whole theme for going out and destroying these other areas is because they want to keep him and his country away from the warp holes, and they're rightfully his and they belong to him, and so they need to go out there and take it. And so that's the whole gist of it.
Now, these warp holes, do we finally understand where they're coming from?
Nope. All we know is that they spontaneously appear and then they can disappear just as easily.
And they are potentially responsible for the lack of water, I believe was one hypothesis. It was never confirmed.
Yeah, that would be it. I mean, supposedly they are the reason for the lack of water,
which completely disappears in the final episode. There's plenty of water.
Yeah.
God. Well, one of the things that I think we should probably touch on that makes a little bit that'll make this make more sense. The wormhole, or the hole that opens up, for some reason has absolutely no research done on it, except by a sickly little kid.
Well, he's not sickly. He's paralyzed because he was shot in a plane.
Ironically enough, the only blood you'll see in the anime.
Yeah.
The only time you'll ever see anybody actually get injured for being in a plane and being hit. But yeah, no, for some reason he's the only one able to make all these connections, and it's kind of funny because it leads you to believe that the people who flew through the wormhole were of Japanese descent. They call them something else, but they bring rice and curry. They bring fluffy pancakes. They bring airplanes, and they bring literature. Literature specifically is read in the same fashion as Japanese literature is. And then they all fly back from whence they came for some unknown reason as well. They came to this planet, built airplanes, gave them the tools for the airplanes, gave them the knowledge for the airplanes, and then left.
Yeah. And that's basically all you really know about this these other worldly inhabitants. You don't know anything else about them. You don't learn anything else about them other than just that.
And as far as public knowledge goes, the wormholes open once every 70 years for whatever, and nothing else ever happens.
But this is soon disproved really quickly by the
kid.
Yeah, by the paralyzed kid who says, no, there have been several others. It's just they were really small and no one ever paid attention to them. And so one appears and then the next episode, another one appears. It's
and
like,
then
cool.
The next episode, another one appears.
It's magical. There's warp holes everywhere. And all you have to do is crash into them and then they explode and disappear.
Yep. See, I know what happens. My theory on this is that a wormhole opened up that can fit just one person through, and it was Oprah, and Oprah was like, you get a wormhole, and you get a wormhole, and you get a wormhole. But joking aside, in the anime, for some reason, the main bad guy, who is the magician, is obsessing over these wormholes to the point of he wants them all and is willing to form a dictatorship.
Well, he deserves them, in case you didn't know.
He doesn't deserve shit. He's not even a good magician.
Hey, he made that donut disappear magically.
I can too. That just means I'm fat.
Beside the point, sir. That is beside the point.
I could have probably made it disappear a lot better too, without the glitter.
All right. I think that's enough on this. I really do. There's the Magnificent Kotobuki. Overall, 0 to 5. What would you rate this?
0 to 5. God, I can't get that time back. I'm going to give it a 1.
Generous.
Yeah, only because of the potential that was there.
See, I gotta go. I can't give it a 1. I really can't. I give it a 0. I have to give this one a 0. No, I take that back.
Have we seen worse anime?
Yes.
What comes to mind when you say that?
The very last one that we just that we did together, Glass Lip. All right, that's why. So I take it back. I give this a 0.5, and the reason why I give it a 0.5 is because at least this one had a conclusion. A horrible conclusion, but it had a conclusion.
Fair. Not really though. No, every episode is basically self-contained. And I had a theory. If I was to skip 3 episodes, would I miss anything?
No.
The answer was actually yes.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. If I would have skipped it, I would have never known about old Sal, or I would have never gotten that backstory, but the backstory was weak. And if I would have skipped an episode, I would have never known that the kid in the wheelchair was the one that knew all about he did all the research to know about all the wormholes. I would have been very confusing, although not unlike the rest of the anime, as to why this little sickly kid knows so much. The backstory for the knowledge shows up.
You can say
I'm trying real hard to justify the 7 out of 10 that it got from other people and the 93% approval rating it got on Google. It makes no sense to me.
It really doesn't.
I'm grasping at straws here, man.
Grasp away, sir, because I will have to disagree with you on everything. This whole thing was a cluster, just a cluster, all the way through. Made no sense. It had plot holes all the way through. In fact, the plot armor was non-existent. Even in this, the plot armor said, no, thank you. I can't even protect you.
Yeah.
That's why I got to give it a 0.5, because it did have a ending, a horrible ending, an annoying ending, but at least it ended. The bad guy is no longer there, so it did end. Granted, people were flying away on damaged, broken planes, but, you know.
Yeah, damaged, broken planes that were way worse off than everything else they shot down, I want to point out.
Yes.
All right, so 1... I give it a 1 F.A.P, because Glass Slip was even worse.
Yeah. And I give this a 0.5. Next week is your choice.
Onward and Upward. Well, first and foremost, wanted to apologize about not being able to record last week. I was a little under the weather, as you probably already know. I'll do my best to avoid that. I don't like being sick. Don't like letting you down. Don't like letting the fans down. And This is an anime that I've never seen before.
Ooh.
It is, The Legend of Legendary Heroes, I think is what it's called.
All right.
Does that sound appropriate? I'm 90% sure it's not a new one. It's The Legend of Legendary Heroes. And it is 2002 to 2006 was the manga, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
The light novel. And it's got 25 episodes, 24 plus an OVA.
All right. Sounds good to me. It looks like it originally aired in July 2010 and ran all the way through December of that very same year. And it is obviously based on a light novel. So that'll be next week's discussion. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it is a lot better than the one I chose. If you want to watch it with us, you can do so at Funimation. I believe is the only place to watch it for, I want to say free. You do have to sign up though. And with that, thank you for joining us this week. Feel free to reach out to us and let us know what you thought of the Magnificent Kotobuki. You can email us at feudalaнимepodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on the Twitterverse at feudalaнимepod. And don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast catcher, and catch you all next time.
Later.